Good morning. Welcome to the game Code Lesson 1.4. This one is open copy. Open copy. Game Code Lesson 1.4. What I'm going to do with this lesson is go over pages in the game The Undercover AI Project. Pages about 140 to 143 or so. And this is pretty much right where we left off the last time. The last lesson was 1.3, and that was pretty much run, load, and save. And so this one, it's more of a question than an actual a command, as far as copy and open. In a lot of ways, we're working with math here, a lot of math, and some of it just doesn't add up. Like if you took a calculator and if you minus the minus, what causes that to be a positive? It's stuff like that it takes a lot of thought. And one thing I'm pretty sure that we wouldn't want to do is kind of hammer down the laws without the idea that we're going to be the solution no matter what. There is quite a bit of, there's big chunks in here. You get run, you get save, you get characters, but a lot of it, to get out of a lot of the hard stuff, it's going to take that kind of solution to be above the code. And so a lot of the code is fake in here, in a sense. It's not the you put 2 plus 2 in there and you're going to get 4. We'd like to think that you would get a 4, but for me, I found it quite a bit easier to find a 5 there, and then kind of kind of make that statement that this is kind of a sort of a copy in a sense, so that way you don't run into huge issues that we're just not going to know. I just don't know if anybody could predict what it is in the negative. You get a negative 2 minus a negative 1. I'm not actually even sure what that comes out to be. I'm still I'm looking at stuff like this, and it blows me away. Here I have a little calculator, and if I put in 2 negative and then I subtract a 1 negative, I'm getting a that time a negative 1, and it doesn't make sense right then to me. If I take a negative 2 and I multiply a negative 1, I'm kind of getting a 2 there, and that's in the plus. And minus a negative 2 here, so that one was 0. So maybe it has something to do with where you get 3 negative and then you 2 negative, that's still a negative 1. So I suppose it depends on what you're doing, whether it's multiplying or subtraction. But a lot of the commands I noticed, just in writing the book and in the study, like the open command, for instance, and not only the open command, but kind of the arrows down here, and and not only the arrows, but this white block here, when it's running this, do you put this before the arrows or after the arrows? And not only, but when you change the blocks from a square, from a character, a letter character, alphabet character, to a square, at what side does the plus go on? So there's some issues there. And so as you're going along, I'd take the bigger chunks that you would know, kind of like 4 plus 4 would equal 8, and kind of run with that rather than trying to figure out, which side this goes on, because it'd be tough. I'm pretty sure the white block would actually go on this side, and the run would start running the block. But and it's not really something you can play with either, because you're working in tiny, kind of quantum particles to kind of just figure here. And you're taking commands of quantum particles and kind of moving them around the screen. And so it's more of it's kind of a guess in a sense to what that is. So what I'll do here is read start off on page 140 here. This is where we were at the last time. He's talking about the run the tree, the running of the tree. That he would kind of load the tree first for like a pre-run. This is kind of where you're getting into that kind of that negative multiplication. Can you multiply a negative number and a negative number, and what are you going to get there? So he's pretty much playing around with the idea of a load and a run. I mean, at some point there's also an open. I mean, you can run a program, and you can put it can load stuff in there, but it also can open stuff as you're in there. And I made a nice little animation here about the some of the ideas that it really could rattle the mind. Just those few simple commands. Run, load, and open. I mean, you could think in your mind for a while at what point are those supposed to be used, because, I mean, say for instance you type a giant, a blind picture where you just got a whole bunch of codes and then you save it. When you reopen that code, if you were to open the code, does it open a picture or does it open the code, So we're going to look at a little bit of this through the lesson. So I'll start reading here. This is on page 141. I did it. Okay, shouts. I know much I can do with this little trick, and a way I can make other trees, the sky, and birds. I can rearrange them as I see fit, each saved independently from the entire picture. Anxious to keep creating, OK begins to create more. I must make a house to go in the center of the final picture. So I mean, this is the house that he's trying to make here is something to this effect right here. Just something with the little blocks. And if we go here to these, the game Beat My Clock TV Snowstorm. Excuse me. There's the cheat codes, the computer instructions, and there is this it's the the copy command here. And looking back, I'm kind of I mean, I can get it, but I mean, I had to wonder why I would put run commands, and I just kept going with it, because there was just so much that I could play with in the idea. So there's a load, copy, enter, copies files, and then a copies a previous saved work. I mean, if you went out in public and you would use the word copy, I mean, does anybody really know what that command means? I mean, I suppose it's in a situation you're in, I mean, if you say, give me a copy of a book, they might give you a copy of the book. If you just say copy, I mean, they might, a person in public, they might try to copy some maneuver you're doing, so the command in the situation is going to make, I suppose the interpretation of it. And so we go back here to, so run : / s plus enter, OK presses, and then he presses the : slant plus SW, he presses enter. White, W is the code, W in the code is for the color white, so this is the SW. If you had put a B in there, it'd be blue. R would be red. OK needs white to create the house. This time OK created. He is not as intimidated by lining up all the blocks properly, because if he gets stuck, he can save a block and move it to a desired location. So this idea is, and in this animation I'll play a little bit of it, is there is one command that was already in the computer, was, you know, the run, colon, slant, slant, S plus would change, you know, the character, alphabet characters to a block. And then he could change the color of the block, and here he's doing it, he's changing it to white. So now he has a white block that he can place on the screen. And so that's one command that it was already pre-programmed with, but he's going to take this a step further, and he's going to save a block. Excuse me. He's going to save a block. He's going to name it white block. This then, when he loads the white block, he can move that white block around the screen. It's kind of like property right then, in a sense. You know, he has a file named the white block. And so it's a brand new code inside the machine right there. So he loads his white block. And there's the white block. And he can move the white block around, you know, with you know, I mean, I suppose he could at the beginning. I mean, this is pretty much, you know, this is, sort of a copy, you know, just, it's not the actual older computers. So this is where, you know, he runs, he's going to try to put the block, you know, he's going to try to run the block. So he's going to load the block, and it's going to appear over here rather than its given spot. So he, you know, enter. In the book I put the arrow keys, but this way it's enter. So it's 4 spaces down and about 9 or 8 spaces, you know, to the right. And so now here's the white block, and once it's loaded, it's running now as a command. It moves 4 down, and then it moves a few over to the right. So that's pretty much his property. He was like, you know, the first one that created a block or saved a block. So I mean, he saved a block technically. So here he opens the block, the white block, you know. And this is pretty much math right here. I mean, what does happen when you open a white block? I mean, I suppose it's in the situation you're in to whether, you know, the white block opens at all. So here, you know, is another idea. But first I'm going to go down here and show you the idea of the you know, the house trick here. I mean, so here he has a house, there's a little part wrong with it maybe, and so he needs to get a quick solution without having to, you know, maybe it's a big project and he doesn't have, you know, the, you know, I don't know, the mind to kind of move the block, you know, where it needs to be. So, you know, he could load a block, load his own block, instead of, you know, kind of rewriting it, the whole entire, I mean, it'd be like, you know, writing, you know, an entire page, and then find something wrong and not being able to change it. So he loads his white block, and then he commands it to go down about 8 and then 1 over. Now, whether this would really work in the old-fashioned computers, I have no clue. Most likely it's something like this, but this, again, this is pretty much a symphony. You know, I mean, this is really phony right here. I used a Word document to do this. But, I mean, so he'd pop in his white block here, and there he just fixed the, he fixed this house. And he also can here load in another object, you know, and he loads in his tree right here. You know, he's pretty much telling the computer to take this file tree and move it somewhere around right here. I mean, but this is pretty much what this is really an image of Word, you know, a JPEG, and I uploaded it to Word. But this is what it would be, something like this inside the computer, where it starts running a command to do something on that screen. You know, there's also a thought to that, you know, once these blocks are on the screen, if you just save that, you know, you're not going to get any of the code with this, most likely. And so if you would open it, you know, you would open, you know, an image. You wouldn't open, you know, the entire, you wouldn't open the script behind it. That's just one more thought to the complex nature of load, run, open, and save. So now he has a block to load and run to his desired location. If his art was missing something in an art scene that he needed to fix and it needed a white block, he can now press load white block. Gives an example of the white block here. And he moves the white block to where it needs to go. Yes, this is awesome. OK says as he places the final block on the white house. What shall I name my completed house? I know, I will name it house. To save the newly created house, OK presses the buttons on the keyboard. Run, colon, slant, underscore save house. OK saved his house, cleared his screen by pressing the keys Control and Escape. Now OK checks to see if he has the house file. Load house. Yes, there's my house I have coded wonderfully. I had to move my first creation, my tree, next to the house. I know what I shall do. I will move the tree right of my house. OK presses load house, enter load tree. And here's where he tries to put the house and the tree where it needs to go. Wonderful. OK shows my wonderful green tree with a brown trunk. This is right of my wonderful white house. OK is super excited and looking to the weeks ahead. After weeks of creating, OK became a little puzzled in his mind. He could easily see himself creating a virtual world, but after 3 weeks of intense work, he looks to find more of a cartoon beginning. The buildings were flat, two-dimensional, the people look like stick figures, and the trees look like big green blotches. Maybe I do not have the colors to create a real-looking virtual world. OK places his head down and begins to think. OK picks up his computer instructions. What if I did something totally different than the instructions say? What if I placed 2 blocks or an alphabet letter in the same space, this changing the colors available? So this is where he gets into kind of making a color wheel, a huge color wheel, and you can see right here, right off the start, how much work would go into the beginnings of the creation of this. So let's finish on with, I forget where we were at here, but I put a nice example, coming right up here in a minute or so of an open file. I mean, it's like, if you were to open a JPEG, you might open, a picture. But to open a script, at the beginnings, to find the two would have been quite hard. It's kind of, writing the math for, what's what in the negative. It'd also be kind of like writing the math for the 3D world as well, because as the block's kind of, if it's on an angle and it's spinning, if you think about that in your head and you have a piece of paper and you try to actually get the math down to how that block's spinning, it's pretty hard to do. So here he's moving his white block, and we did this one. So there is 2 saving right then. One, you're gonna have a script, behind the block that you can save, that you can reopen the script later, and you're also gonna have kind of like an image or a picture that the computer really just saves as kind of a unique block in a sense, and it will load just the block. So here's the idea of the what you would do to keep the script of a block. So he's gonna run, he makes the squares, and then he turns the squares white. And I suppose, in theory, the trick to this would be that you would not see the image that the computer makes. You would kind of just hope that you would write the script and hope that it was gonna do as you commanded it to. So here the G is gonna be the block. So that's going to represent the block. And now what he does, instead of looking at the block, is he just goes ahead and saves basically G. And, he names that, white block. And he doesn't open it to see, he doesn't actually see the white block right then. And so, as he's, if he was to open the block now, he's going to get the script of the block. So this is the script. But you'll notice that when the script will open a G, so if there was an enter down here, it would show a white block. It would not resave the G right here. So if you did open this in a script, you'd most likely get the white block right here. Because, it's not going to resave the white block. So once you open it, if you have a reason to open it and you press enter, you know, it most likely will open to an image, because it's designed to be an image. I mean, the code, when it ran, it would be a block. So we watch this one here. This is where, you know, then he takes his white block and places it down here. And so pretty much, that pretty much sums up the idea to, you know, RK's mastermind reality of, you know, kind of taking property rights, I suppose, just over the white block. At some point he creates a line across the screen, and you know, I mean, to us, you know, we see something like that on our phone or on the computer. To these guys, it was like, you know, first in line. I mean, they knew what they had to create, that the first in line. So I mean, we get something like that, it's kind of like, oh man, my computer just died. But back when, I suppose, I mean, they would get something like, you know, they'd create the line, and it was like, it was a miracle in a sense. So it's a neat concept, you know, that people went and had to create the line, and then they had to create, you know, the line up here and the line up here, so much that you could move around freely on the computer. Some neat stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I hope you'll come back the next time, and have a wonderful day.